I'd like to call the September 9th meeting of the Zoning Commission to order. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Sable?
Here.
Mrs. Himmeline?
Here.
Mr. Epstein?
Here.
Mr. Creedy?
Here.
Our first item of business is to approve the minutes from our last meeting, which was on June 10th, and those are enclosed in your packet with the staff report, plus I think they've been emailed previously. So do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Any additions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, call the roll.
Mr. Epstein?
Yes.
Mr. Sable?
Yes.
Mrs. Himmeline?
Yes.
Mr. Creedy?
Yes.
Motion carries. There is no old business, and there is one item of new business, which is a zone change request from A3 Agriculture, rear of property, to C1 Neighborhood Commercial for the property located at 5578 Centennial Road. People have a copy of the staff report, which I believe reflects both the Lucas County and the Sylvania Township. And my understanding is this was originally requested to be a C2, but it's been modified to be a C1, right?
That's correct.
And Daryl, if you want to walk us through it.
Sure. The 4.5 acre subject property is a split zone lot. Slightly more than half the parcel, Zone C2 General Commercial, and features 316 feet of frontage along Centennial Road. Approximately 360 feet in from the public right-of-way of Centennial Road, the zoning designation changes to A3 Agriculture. All of the parcels on Centennial Road, south of Mayberry to Little Road, have split zoning at the same line of demarcation. This rear 2.1 acres of the parcel is the subject of this zone change request. The applicant wishes to construct a self-serve storage facility on the property. The C2 designated portion of the property already permits this type of use, but the A3 portion does not. The applicant's original request was for a change in zoning to C2 for the rear of the property, thus making the entire parcel C2. The Lucas County Plan Commission staff in their report to that board recommended disapproval of the C2 zone request. The Lucas County Plan Commission staff recommended a change of zoning from A3 Agriculture to C1 Neighborhood Commercial rather than to C2, as it fits the recommendation of the Land Use Plan as more consistent with nearby uses. The Plan Commission accepted both of these recommendations from their staff and unanimously recommended that the Zoning Commission recommend approval and the Board of Trustees approve the change in zoning from A3 to C1. At that time, the applicant agreed to the revised zone change request and has since submitted a revised site plan. Sylvania Township zoning staff concurs with the Lucas County Plan Commission staff that the requested change in zoning from A3 to C2 be denied and that the revised zone change request to C1 be recommended for approval based on the reasons listed above.
So we're only talking about the back part. The front part would still stay C2?
Right.
So the back part would become C1?
Right, it's that rear 40-some% of the...
The project would cover the whole piece of property.
Correct.
Is there anybody does anybody else have any questions for Daryl before we... Is there anybody who wishes to address the Zoning Commission on this topic? If you do, go to the podium and state your name and address for the record and speak into the microphone.
My name is George Orovitz. I'm a consulting engineer for Mr. and Mrs. Hogan, who are the owners and investors in this particular piece of property. My address is 2807 West Course Road in Springfield Township, Maumee, Ohio.
Fine.
Okay. We concur with the Planning Commission's recommendation and your zoning and planning administrator's recommendation of approval of the request for C1 zoning on the rear 2.1 acres of this particular parcel. The reason we amended our application is after discussion with the Planning Commission staff prior to the public hearing, it made sense that the rear of the property should conform to the master plan of Sylvania Township, and that it was consistent with the uses in that particular area and the zoning in that area, and that there was precedent in that area for this particular type of zoning change that has occurred basically in the past. The Hogans, in effect, what they did is they did a market study once they purchased that piece of property as to what would be the best use for it. And based on the number of residential units to the north, to the east, to the south, and now to the west, as that area is rapidly developing, they found that there was a tremendous need for both, should I say, all-weather storage or climate control storage, as well as your normal storage in various storage units. So their intention was to develop the entire site for that purpose. What the C1 allows us to do is we can have one additional building in the C1 district because we're limited to 10,000 square feet, no more than that in building area in the C1 area. What it also provides for us is if we can negotiate with the cell tower to move the tower into that back portion of the property, then it gives us an opportunity to expand the area in the front. Or we're asking that the Zoning Commission concur with both the Toledo-Lucas County Planning Commission, your zoning department, and vote favorably in your recommendation to the trustees of our requested zoning change.
So, what I understood you to say, and what's indicated on the map, is there'd only be one building in the rear of the property. And
That's correct.
you move a cell tower back into the other.
More towards the southeast corner of the property.
But that one corner would basically stay
Yes,
undeveloped.
that's correct.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Orbitz?
What is that cell tower used for?
I don't know. I would say based on the number of antennas that's on the top of it, it's probably used by a multitude of cell companies that the owner of the tower himself just leases space on the tower.
Gerald, are there any governmental uses for that tower that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of.
So your building is subject to relocation of the towers, is that correct?
No, it's not. If we can't move the tower will remain where it's at, and then the units that you see on there are the units that we would build. If the tower can be moved to the southeast corner of the property, then there would be one additional building backing up to those southern buildings on to the middle building itself.
Other than the sketch, do you have a rendering of what you're...
Basically, it would add about 3,300 more square feet of leasing space, but in the depth that those are generally climate controlled. There's a corridor down the middle, and then they heat the building in the wintertime and cool it in the summertime.
Let's see. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Would the cell phone tower, if moved, contribute in the C1 to the square footage, or not?
No.
Not really, just
No.
because it's on a cement pad
Correct.
or whatever?
Correct.
Because you're already at, 8,800 square feet with the building, right?
Yes.
So you'd be allowed another 2,000 anyway.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to address the zoning commission on this issue? Okay, step to the microphone. Again, state your name and address and speak into the microphone. Probably have to bend it down a little bit there.
My name is Aphrodite Georgikopoulos, and my address is 4444 Bromley, Toledo, but I do own the property on the north side. We have that assisted living facility, and I do wish the zone to remain the same as it is, because what they're planning to put there, it's not the proper to be on that street and that area.
Anything else you want to add?
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else who wishes to come to the microphone and speak?
My name's Amy Gerber. I live at 5510 Centennial, so I'm just to the south of that. And my concern also relates to the use of the property, the fact that it is going to be storage units. I don't think it fits with the rest of the property along that thoroughway there. With Mayberry being down the way, we were hoping something along that lines would come in as opposed to mini storage units. So we would actually like it to stay the same as well.
Anybody else who wishes to speak? Yes, sir. Again, name and address?
Hi, my name is Tula Arkebauer. I live at 4447 Sawgrave Drive, Toledo, Ohio. I am a partner at Serenity Gardens, the assisted living, and we'd like for the zoning to stay the same. I agree with Amy that having a storage unit in that location is just not the proper place for it. I believe that if that goes there, then the whole road will eventually turn into an industrial road. It'll just do a chain reaction, and they'll just start building whatever they want, and it'll just take away from what it is right now.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else who wishes to address the issue? Yes, going once, going twice before we take it up. Okay. Do I have a motion, first of all, and then we can discuss? Motion to approve. Get it on the table so we can discuss it. I will make the motion to approve it. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, let's open this up for discussion.
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
The neighborhoods, what is the distance the neighborhoods are from the property? You know what that is? It looks like, if the inset here is correct, it looks like twice the distance of this whole property going to the rear. Is that correct? That's 659 feet. And the neighborhood, Eagle Creek, Littlefield Court, is it that distance away from this place? So then the inset in the corner here is scaled. Correct. I also am looking at the setback, and it says you got 10-foot setback off the rear. The rear is
There's, what we have provided is a 10-foot landscape strip on the south, the east, and the north side, which is required under your zoning code. We also have to the driveway that services the units a 100-foot setback from Centennial Road, which is required by your zoning. There will be no office on this site, because the office that will lease the spaces is located in Mayberry Corners, and they intend to use that to operate to do the leasing of the site itself. And just want to express to you that the front of the property is already zoned C2. Storage units can be built on that today.
That was going to be my next question. I mean, it looks to me like the properties both the north and the south are currently like what this one is, the C2, A3, and so anybody could go along there and put any kind of commercial. I mean, we can all hope it would be a Mayberry, but I mean, you could build the storage units today.
Correct.
In front of the property.
And the storage units, when they're built, especially with the climate control mixed with it, are quite attractive. They're not just, a pole barn box. They're steel frame structures that they put up to maintain these. And your traffic interference in that area, for a complex this size, maybe you'll get 3 or 4 people a day going to the unit either to put something in or take something out. It isn't a high traffic generator. And with the landscaping requirements that Sylvania Township has, there's going to be landscaping required all along Centennial Road and along the other 3 sides of the property.
That's shown on the
On this fence that's 6-foot-high chain link, would there be barbed wire on it, or no?
No.
I have something else. If it's a C1 neighborhood commercial, on page 17, section 1305, the setbacks, it says 30 feet. It reads, from main building, accessory buildings, parking, access drives that abut a residential use. And you have 10 foot.
We would have to amend that then, Mr. Sabo, to 30 feet to meet that requirement.
Isn't it 10 on the sides though, Bob, and 30 at the rear?
Well, that's what I'm asking. I'm looking at 30, because you got residential right behind it.
Yeah, but he's got 25 from the building, then another 10, that's 35 from the building.
The setback for abutting residential C1 is 30 feet for side and rear.
Oh, it is side and rear.
The landscape strip for abutting residential is also 30 feet. So, yes, that would have to be, the landscape
Correct.
strip would have to be amended to 30 on both sides. But, I mean, you
As well
certainly
as
have
on
the room
the
on
side.
the rear and on the side as well, you've
Correct.
got 30 feet.
And you're using chain link fence.
Yes. There is a chain link fence on the south side, but maybe when the Democratic Club put it up, they obviously put part of it on the neighbor's property and not on their property. That'll have to be removed.
New fence. Are there any other questions, comments, discussion?
Would the open area be outside storage for like boats, RVs, and other stuff then, that blank area with no building, or would that just remain an empty field if the cell tower's not?
For right now, it would remain an empty field, and if we could get the cell tower put in there, that would be part of the use of that property. They really have no intended use for that,
For the outside storage?
for the outside storage or things of that nature.
I'm just thinking down the road like Wilkinson's, he has the east
Right.
side of the road is all outside. I didn't know if that would become the same thing.
That's correct. Thank you.
I'd like to add a couple things here as well. Chain link fencing,
I think it has to be a privacy.
right, solid privacy fencing is required when abutting residential. Now, you can have the chain linking with the strips in it. Obviously, we would rather see something nicer than that. But what I wanted to add also is this project would have to go through project plan review should the zone change be approved. So as far as setbacks, landscape strips, fencing, parking, all that would be addressed at that time.
Yeah, it does say, it talks about shrubbery, trees. If you have a 30-foot setback and there's a mound, you put trees in, or what do you call those? I can't think of the name of it.
Arborvitae?
Yeah.
Because I think it says 8-foot privacy fence or 6 foot with a 2-foot mound.
But those would things that would happen during the
Project plan.
project planning. Yeah.
But obviously the neighbors are shaking their heads like a privacy would be better than a chain link, so you get rid of the industrial feel. And I guess we'd want to lean on Daryl as the zoning guy who's driving around, as we've seen some of these projects go in that we've promised neighbors landscaping, and then I drive by 2 years later and there's none in there yet. I mean, do I have any authority to go in and tell the developer he's got to put trees in? No, but, with these people coming here and taking the time, I think, they could call you and lean on you or lean on me, and then I will call you and say, hey, where's the arborvitaes, where's the shrubbery or whatever, just so we don't railroad all these projects through, because, yeah, that's not going to be a Democratic Club forever. I think they know that. Would they want to see a doctor's office there with a lot more traffic, or a dentist office? So those are the things that this board considers. And traffic on that road, as you guys know, is very busy, very hectic. And when she says an industrial field, yes and no, but there also is a stone quarry a mile down the road. So, I mean, to me, it's a little more of an industrial area, and this is not an industrial use. these will be all your friends and neighbors that are bringing stuff to store here from Sylvania. So, as we've said before, it's a double-edged sword. I mean, the property's sold, so I think it looks like a decent project, but we'll lean on Darrell and, you know, the developer to keep it landscaped, keep the fencing where it needs to be, and the neighbors, I would urge to do the same.
Any other questions or
I think the
comments?
gentleman wants to say something.
If you want to, you have to come to the microphone, please.
Sorry. My name is Ernie Gerber. I live at 5510 Centennial Road, which is just south of the property. What our main concern is, what you were just addressing, is obviously it is already Zone C2, so there's nothing, I mean, as far as the front goes. One of our concerns, though, is once you take and put that storage building, storage facility right there in the center of the block, that kind of eliminates from, which would be our property and the adjacent property to the south of us, it kind of limits what you can do with that property. You know, because obviously, you know, it's a little road, it's not a main road, so it's not like it's going to be a gas station or anything like that, but that really limits what you can do to that side of the property. And then the other thing that we were worried about was obviously the fencing and, you know, what they were going to do as far as the fencing was concerned and that kind of stuff, to keep it so that it doesn't look so industrial, as she was saying, because some of the self-storage buildings are very industrial looking, as to where some of them are not so industrial looking, but there are so many self-storage units already in Sylvania. As you mentioned, Wilkinson's, they just put the one up on Sylvania. There's another one down south of Central on Centennial. There's the one over by Myers. So there's quite a few self-storage buildings already in that area. And our main concern is, what is this particular thing going to look like? As well as another concern we have is, what I'm noticing from the plans that we have up here on the board, they're different from the plans that we were actually mailed by you. I'm noticing that the detention pond is actually switched over. Now you're talking not having an office building on that property, so we're a little concerned as to what the facade of it is going to look like. So.
Yeah, does this plans we have that has the office and the leach field, so if there's no office, there's no need for a leach field and septic, correct?
There's a fire line, because we're required by the Sylvania Township Fire Department to provide fire protection services for it. And we'll be tapping the existing water line that's on the west side of Centennial.
You don't happen to have a rendering of these buildings, do you? So we can see what it looks like.
No, I don't.
They look like most of the storage units. Well, and that would be determined during the planning process again, right?
Metal?
Yeah, and then one other thing that we were slightly concerned about was the lighting. Obviously, the storage facility is going to have lighting, because nobody's going to store their stuff in a dark place where it's not secure. So that was the other thing, is the lighting we were kind of concerned with.
Lighting has to be on the property, but it cannot shine on residential property. They have to shield it or turn it in such a way that it's only on their own property. So it should not, and if it is, you need to say something, and they put shielding on it, that they can easily maneuver that around.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, but those are just some of our other concerns, so thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other thing else from members of the zoning commission? I guess the most persuasive thing to me is that the front part of the project could be built right now without the change. So,
Is your guys' property starting as deep as this lot, so you're A3 behind your house and garage also?
Yes.
But your front is also C2, and so is to the south of you to Little Road, right?
Correct, all the way to Little Road, yes.
So let me get this rear of the property straight. Are we looking at a 30-foot buffer?
Yes.
So not 10-foot?
No, 30-foot.
And 8-foot fence or a 6-foot fence?
6 foot, I think.
Either a 6-foot fence on a 2-foot mound or an 8-foot fence.
And there'll be no evergreens or anything?
I believe it,
It refers to a landscape buffer on the inside of the fence.
yeah, it refers to the evergreen
But
trees.
that would be obviously determined by the type of fence you put up, chain link versus some other kind. So, Okay.
And we're not going to discuss what kind of buffering it's going to be? Are you doing that with the trustees?
What kind of what?
What's the buffering going to be? Is it just a 6-foot fence or an 8-foot fence?
Well, that would be decided at project plan review when the applicant submits his plans. That's entirely up to the applicant, which he wants.
Which option he wants during the plan preview process. It's always the devil in the details that you get to deal with after we do this.
No barbed wire, that's the key thing.
Yeah, there we go. Any other comments or discussion? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Mrs. Similai?
Yes.
Mr. Creedy?
Yes.
Mr. Epstein?
With the setbacks and landscaping and fencing and all that, yes.
And Mr. Sable?
Yes.
Motion carries. And we will trust Daryl to do a good job in the planning process, to work with the developer and the neighbors. Is there anything else that we need to do for the good of the order this evening?
I'd just like to add that the next step, this will be before the Board of Trustees on October 6th, and that is a 5 p.m. meeting.
And do we know whether or not we'll have a needed meeting in October?
We do not.
We do not.
I mean, we
We
will
don't
not have
know
a
whether
meeting.
we have one or not.
No, we do know, and we do not have a meeting,
We do not need to have a meeting in October. Okay, so we'll see you in November then, maybe.
maybe.
Or December. Is there anything else?
No, ma'am.
Well, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, call the roll, please.
Mr. Epstein?
Yes.
Mr. Sable?
Yes.
Mrs. Similai?
Yes.
Mr. Creedy?
Yes.
Motion adjourned, or meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Niece's husband does nothing but specialize in storage units, real estate. I didn't realize there was this huge real estate market for storage units.
Oh, yeah, inside out storage, is that like 16
He does
locations?
nothing but as a real estate